The Lost Fleet. The Novanian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol's system. 14 vessels of varying sizes, with hulls that gleamed like burnished copper in the light of Earth's sun. Their arrival was neither planned nor welcomed. Captain Ilara Voss of the United Earth Defense Force stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the alien ships with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain," Lieutenant Chen reported, fingers dancing across his console. "The translation matrix is struggling, but it seems to be a distress call." Ilara nodded, her gray eyes never leaving the view screen. Humanity had made contact with a handful of alien species over the past century, but never had a fleet of this size appeared without warning. Protocol demanded caution, but something about the erratic movement of the vessels suggested desperation rather than aggression. "Open a channel," she ordered. The main screen flickered, revealing a gaunt figure with iridescent scales covering its face and 4 amber eyes blinking rapidly. The alien's breathing apparatus hissed with each labored intake. "I am Terex, admiral of what remains of the Novanian people," the alien spoke, the translation software struggling to match the complex harmonics of its voice. "We seek sanctuary. We have nowhere else to go." Earth's response was swift and polarized. Within hours of first contact, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every continent filled the Geneva chamber, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear, curiosity, and cautious optimism. "We know nothing about these Novanians," argued Councillor Ibrahim from the African Union, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "For all we know, they could be fugitives, criminals fleeing justice. Or it could be exactly what they claim to be, refugees seeking help," countered Councillor Santos of South America. "Are we to turn away those in need simply because they don't share our DNA?" Dr. Maya Lindstrom, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, stepped forward. At 53, her reputation for calm analysis had earned her the Council's respect, though her advocacy for interspecies cooperation often made her controversial. "The Novanians are a species in crisis," she explained, projecting holographic data collected from initial scans. "Their ships show signs of multiple repairs, their life support systems are operating at minimal capacity, and their population appears to consist primarily of civilians, many of them children." "What about their technology?" General Hayes interjected. "Those ships might be damaged, but they're still centuries beyond our capabilities." Maya nodded. "Yes, and imagine what we might learn if they shared that knowledge willingly, out of gratitude rather than coercion." While Earth debated, Ilara requested permission to board the Novanian flagship. Accompanied by a small team including Dr. Rowan Kapoor, an anthropologist specializing in first contact scenarios, she entered the alien vessel. The interior of the Novanian ship was a study in contradictions. Once elegant corridors of flowing architecture were now cluttered with makeshift repairs. Crystal-like growths that seemed to be both decorative and functional pulsed with dim light. The air carried a faint scent of ozone and something reminiscent of sea spray. Admiral Terex led them to a central chamber where a dozen Novanians waited, their scaled skin showing variations in pattern and color. Unlike Terex, some had only 2 eyes, while others possessed 6, suggesting a species with significant genetic diversity. "We were once millions," Terex explained, gesturing to a holographic display showing a beautiful aquatic world with crystal spires rising from vast oceans. "Novani was our homeworld, the heart of our civilization for 10,000 years. The display shifted, showing the same planet racked by enormous energy weapons from orbit. Cities crumbled, oceans boiled, a paradise reduced to ash in hours. The hegemony did this, a female Novanian said, her voice trembling with emotion, "because we refused to surrender our sovereignty." "The hegemony?" Rowan asked, recording everything with his neural implant. "A coalition of 7 species that controls nearly a third of this galaxy," Terex explained. "They demanded we join them, surrender our technological achievements, and accept their governance. When we refused, they made an example of us. How many survived? Ilara asked quietly. Less than 30,000, Terex replied. These 14 ships are all that remain of our civilization. We've spent 3 years searching for asylum. We've approached 17 different species across 12 star systems, and none would help you. Rohan's disbelief was evident. They feared hegemony reprisal. The female Novanian, introduced as Scholar Navara, explained. Some offered sympathy but closed their borders. Others threatened to report our presence if we didn't leave immediately. We've exhausted our supplies, Terex continued. Our engines are failing. Our children are being born in corridors never designed as nurseries. Your system was our last hope before the void. Ilara studied the aliens carefully, looking for any sign of deception. Her military training demanded skepticism, but her humanity responded to their plight. Why would the hegemony destroy your world instead of simply occupying it? She asked. Nivera stepped forward, removing a small device from her robes. Because of this. The device projected a complex lattice of energy that seemed to fold in upon itself continuously. A quantum fold drive, Terex explained. Our greatest achievement. It allows ships to travel between distant points without traversing the space between. The hegemony wanted exclusive control of this technology. Dr. Kapoor gasped. That's theoretically impossible according to our physics. Yet here we are, Nivera said. 60 light years from where your instruments first detected us only moments ago. Back on Earth, the debate reached a fever pitch. News of the Novanian technology spread, turning what had been a humanitarian discussion into a strategic one. Some nations argued for immediate alliance, seeing technological advantages. Others warned that sheltering the Novanians would draw the hegemony's attention to Earth, a planet still confined largely to its own solar system. The hegemony will come regardless, Maya argued before the council. The Novanians' arrival has already put us on their map. The question is not whether we'll face this galactic power, but whether we'll do so alone or with allies who understand their tactics. After 3 days of deliberation, a vote was called. The outcome was far from unanimous, but a slim majority prevailed. Earth would offer sanctuary to the Novanian refugees. Captain Ilara delivered the news personally to Admiral Terex. We can offer you settlement rights on Mars. We've been terraforming it for decades, and while it's not fully habitable by our standards, your environmental requirements might be well suited to its current state. For the first time since their arrival, Terex's posture relaxed slightly. You would do this knowing the risk. Ilara's smile was grim but determined. Humanity has a mixed history, Admiral. We've made terrible mistakes along our path to the stars. But at our best, we stand by those who cannot stand alone. If the hegemony comes, they'll find Earth isn't as primitive as they might expect. As the Novanian ships entered orbit around Mars, activating atmospheric processors that accelerated the terraforming process by decades in near days, a gesture of gratitude. Long-range sensors detected multiple anomalies at the edge of the solar system. Captain, Lieutenant Chen's voice was tight with tension. We're detecting 37 ships entering the system. Configuration unknown, but they're big, really big. Ilara exchanged glances with Admiral Terex, who had joined her aboard the Defiant as a liaison. The hegemony, he said, his amber eyes dimming. They'd found us sooner than I feared. Transmission cut through all channels, overriding even secured military frequencies. A being with sleek black skin and multiple appendages appeared on screen, its voice processed through translation software. This is Executor Kalinar of the Hegemony Enforcement Fleet. You harbor fugitives who possess stolen technology. Surrender them immediately, or your world will share the fate of Novani. Earth had made its choice. Now it would face the consequences. Defiance of stars. The hegemony ultimatum echoed through the chambers of the United Earth Council, where emergency sessions ran without pause. 37 warships now positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the solar system, their weapons systems active but not yet targeting Earth assets. 48 hours, General Hayes reported grimly. That's how long the Executor has given us to surrender the Novanians. Screens around the council chamber displayed simulations of potential conflict scenarios. None ended well for Earth. Even with recent advancements in propulsion and defensive technologies, humanity's combined space forces were no match for a galactic power that had casually obliterated an entire civilization. Dr. Maya Lindstrom entered the chamber, accompanied by Scholar Navarra. The Novanian scientist's scales had dulled with stress, but her eyes remained bright with determination. "We have a proposal," Maya announced. Within hours, a plan formed, desperate, risky, but not without hope. While the council debated evacuation procedures and last-ditch diplomatic efforts, Captain Ilara Voss coordinated with Admiral Terex on a different approach. The quantum fold drive cannot transport something as large as a planet, Terex explained in the secure briefing room aboard the UES Defiant. But we can create localized fold fields around Earth's defensive fleet, giving us tactical mobility beyond anything the hegemony would expect from a primitive species. Ilara nodded. But your remaining ships are in no condition for battle. We don't need our ships, Scholar Navarra interjected. We need your ships equipped with our technology. The integration was happening at breakneck speed. Novanian engineers worked alongside human technicians, adapting quantum fold generators to the architecture of Earth's 23 most advanced warships. The modifications would be temporary, unstable, but potentially enough to alter the equation. Meanwhile, a delegation led by United Earth President Adama traveled to the edge of the system to meet with Executor Kalnar aboard the Hegemony flagship. Your species is young, the Executor stated, its multiple appendages manipulating controls that adjusted the atmospheric settings of the meeting chamber. You cannot comprehend the complexities of galactic politics. The Novanians are not simple refugees. They possess technology that threatens the stability of established trade routes and power structures. We understand better than you might think, President Adama replied. Her dark eyes reflected the strange blue lighting of the alien ship. Humanity has its own history of powerful nations, justifying the subjugation of others for stability. We recognize the pattern immediately. Then you should also recognize the futility of resistance. Kalnar's translator rendered its tone as almost sympathetic. The hegemony has existed for 12,000 years. Hundreds of species live under our protection. Those who resist do not live at all. Yet here we are, talking instead of fighting. Adama noted. Perhaps extinction isn't as inevitable as you suggest. As the diplomatic team bought time, Ilara's modified fleet took position in the shadow of Jupiter, hidden from hegemony sensors by the gas giant's electromagnetic interference. Admiral Terex stood beside her on the bridge, watching as the final calibrations were completed. Even with the fold drives, we're outgunned, Lieutenant Chen pointed out, examining tactical displays. We don't need to defeat them, Ilara replied. We just need to demonstrate that conquering Earth would cost more than it's worth. The quantum fold technology allowed for something previously impossible. Simultaneous coordinated strikes from multiple vectors that appeared to originate from nowhere. When the hegemony ultimatum expired, they were prepared for Earth's surrender, not for 23 warships to materialize directly among their formation, weapons already firing. The battle was chaotic, brutal, and brief. Earth vessels appeared and disappeared, striking with precision before quantum folding to new positions. Hegemony ships, designed for overwhelming force against conventional opponents, found their superior firepower negated by an enemy they couldn't effectively target. 7 hegemony vessels were crippled in the first assault. Another 5 suffered critical damage as they attempted to form a defensive perimeter. The remaining ships regrouped around the Executor's flagship, energy shields flaring against the unexpected assault. This is impossible. Kalnar's transmission cut through the battle chatter. Your species doesn't possess full technology. No, Ilara responded as the Defiant materialized briefly above the flagship, launching a precision strike against its sensor array. But we possess something the hegemony seems to have forgotten: the ability to look beyond our own interests and stand with those in need. The quantum fold generators were failing, their improvised integration with human technology reaching critical limits. Ilara ordered a final coordinated strike, not at the hegemony vessels, but at the space between them. 23 ships appeared simultaneously, surrounding the Executor's flagship in a sphere formation. The Novanians aren't the only ones who refuse your offer, Executor, Ilara transmitted. But unlike them, we're not alone. Check your long-range sensors. Beyond the immediate battle, hundreds of civilian vessels, mining ships, research stations, colony transports had positioned themselves throughout the solar system. None were warships, but all carried explosive payloads hastily converted from industrial equipment. "This is our home," Ilara continued. "We may not have your technology or your millennia of experience, but humans have spent their entire history fighting against overwhelming odds. It's practically our species' hobby." For long moments, silence reigned across all channels. Then, remarkably, a sound emerged from the translation software that might have been laughter. "Captain Voss of Earth," Executor Kelnar responded finally. "The hegemony has encountered many species in its expansion. Most surrender immediately. Some fight briefly, then capitulate. A few, like the Novanians, resist to their destruction." A pause. "But you are the first to embrace another's cause as your own, when you could have simply handed them over. Curious. Perhaps there is something in your species worth further observation." The hegemony fleet began to withdraw, their massive engines flaring blue against the blackness of space. "This isn't over," the Executor warned. "The Hegemony Council will debate this unusual situation. We will return with their decision. And we'll be waiting," Ilara promised. In the months that followed, Mars underwent a transformation. Novanian technology accelerated the terraforming process exponentially, creating habitable zones where their people could establish new communities. In exchange, they shared knowledge, carefully, selectively, mindful that too much too quickly could destabilize human society. Earth's position in the galaxy had changed irrevocably. No longer isolated, it had announced its presence on the cosmic stage in the most dramatic way possible, by defying a power that had gone unchallenged for millennia. "They will come back," Admiral Terex noted as he stood with Ilara on the observation deck of the new joint Earth-Novanian space station orbiting Mars. "The hegemony doesn't forgive challenges to its authority." "I'm counting on it," Ilara replied, watching as construction drones swarmed around a massive structure taking shape nearby. The first ship designed collaboratively by human and Novanian engineers. But next time, they won't find refugees and a primitive planet. "What will they find?" Terex asked. Ilara smiled as the ship's quantum fold drive core activated for the first time, bathing the station in prismatic light. "Allies," she said simply, and a reminder that compassion isn't weakness. It's the greatest strength the universe has ever known.